Hi, I'm Kyle Harris, and I'm going to be going through a series of videos here on training and progressive training for sports performance. These exercises and training videos are going to focus on a high school athlete that's going to be playing baseball. These are workouts that are specifically designed for pretty much a beginning athlete that's just getting into the weight room. We're going to show you different progressions starting at the stabilization endurance phase and working all the way through the power phase of the NASM OPT model. Today we're going to be going through the stabilization endurance phase portion of the training, and the first thing I want to talk to you about is a warm-up. Prior to the exercise you're going to see here today, we would perform probably a 10-minute whole body warm-up and aerobic style warm-up such as a bike, treadmill, an elliptical, something of that variety to get the body primed and ready, get the energy systems ready to do more. The first thing I'm going to show you today is a shoulder circuit. Since we're focusing on baseball players, arm care is vital and very important. We want to make sure our athletes have extremely stable shoulder sockets and shoulder joints. So we're going to do an arm care program before every single weight training, every single workout for day 1, day 2, and day 3 during each week. Okay? First thing we're going to do are internal rotations, and we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on these. We're going to have our elbow in, and we're going to do about 10 to 15, and this is really just to help loosen up and warm up the shoulder. After that, we're going to work more on the posterior portion of the shoulder to try to build stability around the shoulder blade. We'll turn. We're going to come in. We want to keep our shoulder in. We're going to do external rotations. As we progress through our program, we'll take this and we'll actually move on from 1 and work our way up to 3 sets of 10 to 15 repetitions. I'm over here at a cable because we can also use a cable for these exercises, but I prefer a band. Bands are easier. You can purchase bands for your entire baseball team, or you can purchase one for every 2 players and they can share them. The next thing I want to do is we're going to do straight overhead here. Okay, we're going to bring that. We're going to bring it straight overhead, trying to keep our posture and make sure we're not arching the back. We want to keep it right in the shoulder, working the shoulder blade. Again, we perform 10 to 15 repetitions. And we're going to do a horizontal abduction. We're going to take it away this way. Trying to keep the shoulder blade down. We don't want that shoulder blade to come up. We want to keep that shoulder blade down. And then we're going to try to get that band. We'll want to get it a little bit higher, so you may have to adjust it. And we're going to do a straight arm pull down. We're going to start high and bring it straight down this way. And the last thing we're going to do is we're going to work shoulder flexion starting in a stretched position, holding that position for a couple of seconds, and then coming straight out this way. Again, trying to keep that shoulder blade down. We would do this circuit with no rest. We could take breaks between each exercise by using our left arm or our right arm. We want to use both arms. We want to keep the body as balanced as possible. We don't want a left-handed pitcher only doing their shoulder stabilization work with their left arm and not their right shoulder. We don't want a right-handed thrower or pitcher doing only their right side and not their left side. So we would do both. So you could perform one exercise with the right and then do that same one with the left and then progress to the next exercise.
Go.
The next thing we're going to do in our training program for today is we're going to work on flexibility. Since this is the stabilization endurance phase, we're going to focus on foam rolling or self-myofascial release and static stretching. So we've got the muscles warmed up, we've got our upper body, our shoulders warmed up, and we're going to do some foam rolling. I've got a foam roller and I've got a baseball. Baseballs may be a little rough, but I figure we're going to have baseballs at a baseball practice. Everybody can use a baseball. If that's a little much for a player, you can always use an Incrediball, or you could use a tennis ball, or if you want to get into some smaller crevices, you could use a lacrosse ball. So the first thing we're going to do is our TFL right here. As baseball players, we need to make sure our hips are highly functional. There is some standing around in baseball. We don't want those muscles to get tight. We want to be able to explode right away when we need to. And with pitchers, catchers, other athletes, there's a lot of rotation, squatting, getting the leg through triple flexion and extension. So we want to make sure those hips are loose. So we're going to foam roll. We're going to find those tender areas along the TFL. We might even do the front. We're going to just kind of roll around here and find the most tender area or the multiple tender areas. And we're going to hit that We're gonna hold that for 30 to 60 seconds. Ideally, we wanna hold it until that tightness or that overactive muscle releases. We're trying to break up the adhesions that are there from microspasms that occur from overactive muscles or overtrained muscles. Again, we would do both sides. For the purpose of the video, I'm only gonna do one side of each of these. The next thing we're gonna do is our piriformis. All right, we're gonna try to get in there into our glute a little bit. And to do this, I think the easiest way is to sit right on the foam roller. You're gonna cross your legs. If I'm gonna do my left leg here, my left piriformis, I'm gonna cross that over my right, and then I'm gonna roll around on that until I find that. Crossing that leg really opens up that area. I can roll around until I find that tender spot, and I'm gonna hold that for 30 to 60 seconds. For very overactive muscles, you may wanna roll around a little more and hit another area or two in that same muscle or same body region and make sure you're getting that going. After the piriformis, we're gonna go into our lat. We wanna make sure we have functionality in our throwing shoulders, so we're gonna hit the lat. We're gonna lay down here. We're gonna get right up in that lat where it ties in, maybe even a little bit of the teres there. We're gonna find the area that's nice and tender, again, and we're gonna hold that for 30 to 60 seconds. The last thing we're gonna do, which I think is the most important for baseball and any overhead sport, is we're gonna try to get the upper back, shoulder blade area. One way you can do it is to use the foam roller. You can place that on your upper back and roll around and find those areas. You can even stretch across, open that up by the scapula. I find that a little cumbersome. I don't think the foam roller gets into the areas of the shoulder blade, posterior shoulder, and upper back. So I like to use a ball. Roll around, I get on the scapula, try to get those tender areas there. I'll even roll around and get right inside, try to get a little bit of that subscapularis and the upper lat through here. If that's a little much for your players, if they can't handle that tension because it's so tender, another thing they can do is they can place that ball or tennis ball against a wall somewhere, and they can use that because they can control the amount of pressure they're putting on that. Again, we can get the lat a little bit, we can get the scapularis. If we open up this way, we can get the subscap just a little, and then we can roll around in the trap there. And we can get all those tight areas, and we can get those nice and loosened up. Once we're done with the self-myofascial release, we're gonna move on to some static stretching. And we're just gonna do some simple static stretches here. The first one is the gastrocnemius. We wanna make sure that the calf muscles aren't overactive. We wanna get those loosened up early in the program because we are going to be using those for all of our squatting, triple flexion, and extension exercises. And we wanna make sure those are loose and they're not causing any movement problems or any compensations when we're doing activities. So for that, we're just gonna line ourselves up on the wall. Try to get a nice 45-degree angle, and then we're going to keep that heel on the ground, and we're going to hold that for 30 to 60 seconds. After that, we're going to do a supine piriformis stretch, and it's the same thing. We're going to sit down, we're going to cross our legs, we're going to come back on our back, we're going to come right here. That'll get the piriformis, that'll get some of the glute muscle complex, and again, we're going to hold that for 30 seconds. And don't forget, you want to do both sides here. So we're going to hold that there 30 seconds, and then we'll move on to the next exercise, which is the standing hip flexor. With the standing hip flexor, I like to modify it just a little bit. We stagger our stretch. The side that we're going to do, we kind of lean into that, we feel it. You can activate your glute a little bit, and then if you want to, you can reach up. And I like to go back. Some people like to open up this way. You can kind of play with it, figure out where that stretch hits you the most. And again, 30-second stretch. Hold that for at least 30 seconds, and then we'll move on to the other side. While we're there, we're gonna do the TFL. With the TFL, instead of coming this way, what I like to do is I like to push my hip out this way, feel it more, a little bit more in the glute, and right down the side of the quadriceps muscle there. So I can hold that. Again, we can come overhead. We can twist into it if we need to. And we can hold that. We're gonna hold that for 30 seconds. Again, both sides. Next, we're going to do a pectoralis stretch. Here we're going to find a wall or some kind of apparatus where we can hold that on here, elbow at or slightly above that shoulder, and we're just going to turn away. We're just going to turn away right there. We're going to hold that for 30 seconds. We'll do both sides. Posterior shoulder stretch. This is one that I like to have my players do multiple times a day when we're starting like pitchers and catchers or doing a lot of throwing. You're gonna lay down on your side. Right hand throw is gonna lay on the right side. Arms out this way. Rest the neck. You're gonna use the other arm just to push that down. And you're gonna hold that for 30 seconds. Again, a lot of times baseball players forget that we need to do both sides. So you wanna do your right and your left side. And then the last stretch we're gonna do is a ball lat stretch. Again, I really like to focus on the lats in baseball. A lot of people these days, a lot of kids, they're constantly arched over this way. We're tight here, we're underactive in our lats. We're gonna do some of that strengthening with that later in the program. So we need to make sure our lats are healthy. We need to make sure they're flexible. So we're gonna come here on the ball. We're gonna come straight out this way, and you can rotate your hips, you can sink into it. Wherever you're feeling that stretch, right down along that lat. 30-second hold, then we'll do the other side. Okay, the next part of our training today is gonna be the core. We're gonna do some very basic core exercises. We're gonna be holding these in the stabilization endurance phase for a little bit longer. We're not focused on weight, we're not focused on increasing muscular strength as much as we are muscular endurance. So the first thing we're gonna do is a two-legged glute bridge. Very simple. You're gonna lay down, arms on your side, feet flat. I like to have my athletes engage their core a little bit here. So we do a drawing in maneuver or a pelvic tilt. And then we raise up, trying not to overarch, staying flat, holding it for 2 seconds. Down. Again, I like to have them engage. Up, hold it for 2 seconds, squeezing the glutes. Down. Again, engage and up. We would do that, one set of those would work for 20 repetitions if possible. That's what we're gonna do in this phase. The next exercise is a prone iso ab or a low plank. With this in this phase, week 1, we would hold this for about 20 seconds. Right here, we wanna stay nice and bridged flat. We don't wanna sink. We don't wanna be up here. Right there, keeping the abs nice and tight, trying to build a good level of endurance and inner abdominal pressure so we can have that bracing and the inner abdominal pressure that we need and the ability to use that drawing in maneuver for further strength exercises as we progress. We're going to do some balance now. The balance, single leg balance in the sagittal plane. So this is very, very easy. We're just going to stand on one leg. We're trying to increase proprioception, balance, neuromuscular control. We're just going to reach in the sagittal plane. So we're going to come straight out in front with our leg and back. Straight out in front with our leg and then back. Straight out in front and then back. Working 6 to 10 reps on each leg. So we'd switch to this leg and then again out, back, out, and back. Very basic, but we need to build slowly on this as we progress into more difficult things like a single leg catch and throw, or a chop, or a cable lift. And then we are actually going to do a single leg medicine ball lift and chop. I have a medicine ball right here with me. I'll grab a little kettlebell. And we're going to be on one leg here. We're going to just lift and then chop. Lift and chop. In the stabilization endurance phase, our balance exercises, we're not moving our balance leg. We're keeping them still. We would do both legs. Again, come this way. And as we develop more balance, we can increase the weight if we want to, or we can use a cable, or we can increase the range of motion just a little bit. Okay. Once we're done with core and balance work, we're going to move to plyometrics. With the plyometrics, we're working on holding the position and working on stabilization in the stabilization endurance phase. We're going to use a low box, slowly progress as we progress the program into a higher box, depending on the athlete's stability, their functional ability, and their ability to maintain posture. So we're going to come here, we're going to get set, we're going to box jump, and we're going to hold that for 3 to 5 seconds. 3 to 5 seconds. And then we would step down and do the same thing. 3 to 5 seconds. Ideally, the box would be a little wider than that. We want a good base. We want to be able to land here. So I think the next exercise today is a squat jump with stabilization. So on this one, it's the same thing. We're going to perform a squat jump. We're going to land and hold that for 3 to 5 seconds. All right, it's the same thing. So you can see that's how we want you to land on the box when we're doing that. If we have a nice box that's had a little bit of a wider base. We perform one set. We would do 5 reps there for week 1 of stabilization endurance. Okay. Okay, so we're moving away from that. Now we're moving into some speed, agility, and quickness training, also known as SAQ. In this stabilization endurance phase, we want to keep these very basic. We're trying to learn body control, movement control, trying to learn where we are in space and time, improve proprioception, neuromuscular control, a lot of things. We're going to keep reaction low. We're going to keep change of direction low. We're going to do things that are going to help us with our running technique and knowing where our feet are. All right? So we're going to do things like butt kicks. As we're doing butt kicks, I like to tell the athletes, keep your normal arm swing and really try to feel those hamstrings pull, quadriceps stretch. Use the ball of your foot like you're grabbing, like an eagle talon, ripping through that ground, hitting and pulling, hitting and pulling, hitting and pulling. The next one we're going to do our high knees, and this one, instead of working on hamstring flexion, we're working on hip flexion, trying to get the knees up. Same thing, we're trying to get the knees up, toes forward, posture straight up, and we want a normal arm swing. And the last one is karaoke. We're going to move a little bit more in that frontal plane, that lateral movement, trying to get some hip swing, and we can start nice and controlled, performing that grapevine in both directions. As we get better, we can progress that exercise with bigger hip rotations and bigger strides, or we can make it quicker as we go. The next exercise we're going to pull out, we're going to use the speed ladder. We're going to do some jumping jacks on the speed ladder. We've got a mini speed ladder. Normally we'd use a longer speed ladder. We're going to start, we're going to come out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, just like that. So we're going to do jumping jacks there. And then we're going to do some one-ins. The one-ins are kind of like the high knees. Very basic, staying upright, toes ahead, working on triple flexion as we come through, 1 foot in each box. And then lastly on this day, we would do an upper body agility drill. So we could start in the push-up position. We're going to work in, out, 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 out. The length of the ladder, working on that. I like those for baseball because they build upper body endurance, they build stability of the shoulders, and you're using your biceps, triceps, forearms, and hands to help improve strength there. Okay. So finally, we're at the fun part, the part that I like the most, the resistance training portion of the exercise. I love lifting the weights, so I like to get to this one and start busting the kids' butts. But we need to make sure we have proper neuromuscular stability, neuromuscular control, and the body's working together in unison. So we're going to start with some stabilization endurance exercises in this phase. The first one is a total body exercise. It's a stability ball, dumbbell stability ball squat, curl to press. We perform that exercise to the prescription of the sets and the reps called for in the phase we're in. For this one, we would do 1 set on the first day of the first week, and we try to do about 20 repetitions. The next exercise is a stability ball dumbbell row. We're trying to increase the proprioceptive environment here, but we don't want to increase it too much off the bat. So we're going to come down to the ball here. We're going to perform a dumbbell row. As you can see, you need to balance yourself, stabilize yourself on the ball while working on engaging the back musculature. The next one, stability ball dumbbell bench press. We're again using the stability ball. We're going to lay back, working on technique here, keeping everything in line. Again, on day 1, week 1, we're working 10 reps, we're working 1 set, 20 repetitions. The next exercise is a standing cable row. So we're gonna come over, we're gonna use the functional trainer, we're gonna back ourselves up, get into an athletic position, and we're rowing. On these exercises in this stabilization endurance phase, we want to use a slow, controlled tempo with about a 4-second negative. We're looking for a 4-2-1 tempo here. Again, one set of 20 repetitions. We would progress these exercises and increase the sets and weight and lower the repetitions as we move from weeks 1, 2, 3, and 4. After that, we're going to go back and do another lower body exercise. We're going to do a single leg dumbbell RDL, or single leg dumbbell Romanian deadlift. We'll post up, trying to balance, about 3 to 4 seconds on the way down. And since we're doing a balance exercise thrown in here on one leg, we're going to do about 6 to 10 repetitions per leg. So 6 to 10 on this leg, and then 6 to 10 on the right. After that, we're going to go back to the stability ball, and we're going to do a stability ball shoulder press. One set, 20 repetitions. After that, we'll do a single arm dumbbell hammer curl. One set of 20 repetitions, making sure we're using both arms. So after 20 reps, we switch to the other arm, work right here. And then we're going to work the triceps with a band. I like to use bands. I like the dynamic tension that they produce. We'll find some place up high that we can strap that thing into. It requires more control than using a cable or free weight. We can do a single arm here, or we can use both arms depending on the band we have and our strength levels. Again, the goal is to do one set of 20 repetitions if you're doing one arm, 20 with the left, 20 with the right, both arms at the same time. It's 20 total. And then lastly, we want to make sure, as I talked about earlier, we have a real nice, strong posterior shoulder region. So we are going to do band pull aparts. We're going to do one set of 20, nice and controlled on the way in, trying to control the scapula so we're not up here, we're not unbalanced. Great exercise to do in a mirror to make sure that you're tracking in the right path with both arms. Now, once we're finished with the resistance portion of the workout, we would then revisit a cool down, and we would incorporate those static stretches that we did in the flexibility portion of the stabilization endurance. Those flexibility exercises are going to stay constant throughout this entire program, whether we're in the stabilization endurance phase or we're moving on to the strength endurance, hypertrophy, max strength, or the power phase. We're going to continue to do those to keep the muscles elongated, to keep the elasticity of the muscles, and to keep the extensibility of the muscles. Thank you for watching this video. We are going to do the next video in the next couple of days. We will post that up. That will be the strength endurance phase of this baseball training program. Thank you.